What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Knives of the Round Table. My name is Marco, and today we are talking about one of the most anticipated knives of the year, at least one of the most hyped up knives of the year. And this is the Microtech MSI, or the MSI. It's Microtech Standard Issue. So if I'm gonna make that mistake a bunch of times, I'm gonna call it the Microtech MSI, even though it's just the MSI, Microtech MSI, Microtech Standard Issue. And this is a part of kind of a new breed of knife that they're doing, where they are doing this axis style lock. They, for a long time, they did the stitch as an auto, and the stitch is an awesome knife. It's a very unique looking knife. It's a collaboration with Orca Blades. But it's an automatic knife, and I've been wanting for them to do a manual version, and they finally did it. So the other knife that they're doing in this type of style with this type of lock is the stitch. But when they did that, they also released the Microtech, the MSI, and I decided to pull the trigger on this one first because I already have an automatic stitch. I'm probably gonna try and get the manual stitch, but I wanted to get this one in to test and to review and to check it out. But it's been really hard to get. Microtech's been dropping these like every other Friday or so, but they go super quickly, and I had not been able to pick one up until very recently. So let me give you kind of a tour of the knife, because this is kind of a big boy. What you have here is kind of a it's a little bit over 3 3/4 inch blade, so it's a big blade. Overall, you're looking at roughly 9 inches overall, and you have this I don't know, a kind of an elongated sheep's foot blade. You got a thumb round up here in the spine of the knife. It's made out of what they're calling M390 MK steel. So from what I understand, it's just M390 with a little bit of sprinkling of something or other. I can't tell the difference between this and M390. I don't think many people could, but it is kind of their proprietary kind of a thing. It's got G10 scales, and then you have an axis style lock. And I mean, so this is more, maybe axis is not the right word, but more of a kind of like the Mannix style, because what you have is you have a linear spring here as opposed to the Omega springs that you find in some of the Benchmates. And I'll show you here the Benchmade here in a second. But this is a more robust, a longer lasting type of lock. The disengagement is via this thumb, or I don't know what you call these, I guess thumb studs, but they are in the style of the deployment that you have for the automatics. Okay, it's this X. I like it very much. I like the way it looks quite a bit. It's fully ambidextrous because you can change the pocket clip from the right side to the left side. Because it is an axis lock, it's actually fully ambidextrous. Like Nick Spass would say, the experience for righties and lefties is gonna be identical. You got a bent pocket clip that it gets you. It's a deep carry, and that's kind of it. This is what you got. So let me give you some size comparisons, because, like I said, this is a big boy. That is a para 2 right there. So para 2 being a full-size knife, which you can see, this is significantly bigger, and this is a para 3. So if I line up the pivots, okay, that's lining up the pivots. You can see the handle is significantly bigger, the blade significantly longer. This is a big knife. Okay, this is not yeah. This is huge. Okay, you need to I think in the photos it looks slimmer than, or it looks smaller than what it actually is. But this is a big one. That's how it looks in how it would look in the pocket. So again, longer, bigger, and I'll show you here. It's actually quite a bit thicker than what you get on a pair 2. Okay, so yeah, big boy. Now, like I said, it has the access style lock, and you can see that. Hopefully, you can see the Omega spring right here in the Benchmade, right there. So that's the access lock that Benchmade does. But I think this is a better system. The fact that you can use a linear spring as opposed to an Omega spring is going to add to its longevity. So as you can see, the size comparison, it dwarfs the full size baguette, and the mini baguette is not even a fair comparison. So let's talk action. And I'm starting there because it was a little bit disappointing, the action on this one. On the Benchmade knives, you can deploy it with a thumb stud fairly easily. The detent is enough to where it deploys fairly well. This one is on bearings, but well, it doesn't have a thumb stud, so the spidey flick is the way, and that happens quite a bit. Now I've seen some other reviews, and they say that it kind of goes away, but you have to kind of really go at it. You really have to push the blade in order for it to deploy. So it's not as satisfying as I would like it to be. Whenever I deploy it, just releasing the center bar, it deploys fairly well. So using the thumb stud, I mean the thumb, using kind of the thumb hole here, it works fairly well. But most of the time to deploy it, I have to use quite a bit of wrist. So it's not as satisfying as I think they could make. Now this is the first kind of the first round, or the first version of these knives. So I think they've got and they've done automatics forever, and they've done other type of manual folders forever, but they've never done this style. So I think they have kind of a learning curve here. So I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt that this is gonna get better. And from what I've heard, the action does become a little bit better over time. It hasn't happened to my knife just yet, but just know that I think the action is not as good as could be expected it to be. I guess that's what I would say. Now moving on to ergonomics. So this is a big boy, so there's plenty of real estate for your hand. I wear large gloves, as I've always told you, and in my hand I fit 2 fingers here, kind of in this kind of elongated groove, and then 2 fingers in the back. That's kind of where my hand wants to land, to kind of do a kind of a saber grip right here. But as you can see, I still have a good 1/2 inch here in the back. So those of you with larger hands than mine, extra large gloves or so, I think this will fit you just fine. And if you're choked up here, which you can do, then you have kind of a full inch in the back here. It's like I said, it's a big knife. Now the ergonomics are decent. They're not perfect, but they're decent. It's a little bit sharp on the inside here. Not bad. But the thing that I do feel quite a bit is the pocket clip. The ramp, it does kind of curve back a little bit, so it doesn't just point up. It kind of semi curves back, but I can feel it. I can feel it in my hand. So the ergonomics are okay. They're not great. I think they're much better on the stitch. In my opinion, choked up is not as comfortable. I don't feel it very comfortable here. I feel like my thumb, it would have to be too far back, and there's no jimping out here if I wanted to go like this. The flat is kind of not. It's getting there, but it's not quite there. The ergonomics are okay. Not great. I wouldn't say that you can't, that it's unusable. It's better than, say, like a Medford ergonomics, right, where you're just kind of holding a bar of steel. It's better than that, but it's not quite like the Stitch or some other knives, far from like a Koenig Arius or a Shirogorov or one of those, right? It's far from that. So that's kind of ergonomics. So let me show you here blade thickness, and blade thickness is damn near identical to a Para 2 in the back, as you can see there, but it has the kind of the flat carries here about kind of 30-40% of the way down, and then it comes down, so it doesn't come down to a very fine edge, but it's a sheep's foot, and it's a very useful kind of blade. I think you can do some serious work with it. It's a little bit heavier duty. I would trust this one to be a little bit heavier duty than a Para 2 blade. I think this blade becomes a little bit too thin, especially up near the point. This is a little bit more robust. If I show you if I show you like this, maybe like that, you can see how thin the Para 2 becomes, and you get a lot of material carried forward to very far forward in the blade for the MSI. So I would say that this is more of a harder use knife than what you get on a Para 2, but because of that, it's not as slicey. Now, all of these knives, they will always get the job done on most tasks, right? It's only if you're gonna be, cutting cardboard, for hours on end, that you may want something like this. But if you're not, if you're gonna use it for a lot more things, this is more of a knife that I like. I like my knives to be a little bit more robust than daintier. In other words, I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of the sliciness for a little bit of more durability. Now, sorry, the neighbors are being extra noisy today. And so, fit and finish. And fit and finish is actually pretty good. Microtech's known, their stone wash, their grinds, their lines. I think all of it is what you can expect from Microtech. They do very well. So in fit and finish, I would put them kind of a little bit above zero tolerance without getting quite to kind of Chris Reeve type of territory. And I think this is still the case. I think they have some work to do in the action department, but fit and finish is actually very good. I'm hoping that in the future they offer something like carbon fiber, because this is just G10. So I'm hoping that they offer like a full titanium or a carbon fiber version of the knife. I think that would be very good. Now, airing of grievances. There's a couple. I think that the ergonomics, like I said, it could be a little bit better. I think that the action, man, I was hoping that it was a little bit better, but it takes a considerable risk to kind of deploy it. I'm hoping that it gets better over time. So because I really like the looks of the knife. But I think that as it stands right now, the action has a little bit to be desired. Now, one problem, and I saw a review and they pointed it out, and I think it was Neve's Knives maybe, and I said, I'll try it myself. But you see the screws that they've got these domed screws on the filler tab right here. Well, they've got the same ones, and it's a little bit harder to see on the pocket clip, but they protrude from the scale, and they protrude quite a bit. These are not small screws. So what happens is that they kind of get snugged or snagged. No, not snugged, snagged in your jeans, whenever you deep carry it. It's just they just protrude quite a bit. They need it to be a little bit flatter, a little bit deeper inset. And the pocket clip, like I said, it's a little bit uncomfortable. So so that's kind of my airing of grievances. I do like quite a bit. It's very how do I say it? I mean, there's no way you're gonna there's a lot of traction on this thing. There's no way you're gonna slip out of it. And I like that quite a bit. It kind of mimics the way they've done their automatics, and I like this. This I think looks very cool, and I think the knife overall looks really cool. I think that as a first go, as a first edition, as a first version of this knife, I think it's a really good attempt. But where it really shines, or where I think it's really good, is in the price. I think this is $250. So you get an axis lock, you get an M390 blade, you have a Microtech fit and finish, you have a very large knife. So if you compare that to what you get from like a bug out, right? The bug outs, this version of the knife, or kind of the equivalent specs, you're looking at more money than when you're paying for the Microtech MSI, and this is just a much larger knife. So I think that the value on these, I would go snag one, because I think the value is tremendous for this knife. I think what you get for the money that you pay is tremendous. One of the best values out there, I think, right now. Metal Complex always says that for him, the kind of the pinnacle value is the Ritter Hogue. That's why he's made it kind of his. It's what he calls the point of diminishing returns for him. I think this is even better value than that. I think at $250, it's great. Now, I think that they should make a version of this that is smaller. I don't know if you want to call it a mini or whatever, but over 3 3/4. If you make it 3 1/4, okay, you shave a 1/2 inch off the blade, and you shave a 1/2 inch off of the back. Okay, imagine this. This is my large hands. You have a little bit of extra handle here. You got a sharpening tool, and you've got room to spare. I think if you shave a 1/2 inch on the back and a 1/2 inch on the front, keep a lot of the dimensions, just the proportions, just bring it down a little bit. I think they would have something that would challenge kind of the bug out for a great kind of pocket EDC carry. As it stands, this is more of a, man, it looks a little more tactical, if you want to call it that, but it looks a lot more heavy duty, a lot more, rather than EDC. It looks more like a work knife, or this sizes, and maybe that's the whole point. The point is to have a knife that can put in some work. But I think that they can do a smaller version that that is geared towards a different demographic, and a different use. If they just shave a 1/2 inch on either side, I think they would bring the knife down to a size that is just really good. Well, guys, that's it for the Microtech Standard Issue, the MSI. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. If it did, then like and subscribe. And until I see you at the next one, take care.